just cool. Everything is fine up until the night Big got murdered.
What did you see that day?
That was Gene, Biggie's bodyguard, reflecting on the days leading up to the rapper's tragic death. Apparently, there's more to his death than we've been told. Now, something even more shocking has been uncovered in Biggie's secret underground tunnels, and it's worse than anyone could have imagined. We've got all the details right here. Let's break it down. The Empire's hidden vaults. Yo, let me put you onto something real talk. What went down after the notorious B.I.G. got smoked ain't just about no cold case or rap beef that got frozen in time. Nah, fam, this runs way deeper, way more calculated, and straight up more grimy than most heads could ever imagine. Because when Christopher Wallace, the streets knew him as Biggie Smalls, caught them bullets on that L.A. night back in March '97, he left behind more than just platinum plaques and a whole city mourning. My man left behind a whole empire. And empires, as we about to see, don't just fade into the sunset. They get passed down, they get fought over, and most disturbingly, they get turned into dollar signs in ways that would make even the most ruthless hustler uncomfortable. Let me paint this picture for you real vivid. Where we at right now, in 2025, damn near 3 decades after Biggie got murdered on March 9th, 1997. The hip-hop world just witnessed something that should have been a W, but instead exposed mad cracks in a foundation that Biggie's mom's, Valletta Wallace, had been building for like 30 years straight. Check it. Valletta passed away on February 21st, 2025 at 78 years old in her crib out in Pennsylvania. But yo, here's where things get real suspect. And by suspect, I mean straight up shady as hell. Just days before she crossed over, Valletta gave her final blessing to this major deal with Primary Wave Music, a deal that was about to flip everything Biggie built completely upside down. We talking about a partnership worth approximately $200 million, with Primary Wave copping a 50% stake in Biggie's publishing rights, his masters, and even his name, image, and likeness. When word hit the streets about how major this deal was, the reaction was mixed. Some cats were celebrating the bag it would bring, while others were questioning whether they just sold half of Biggie's soul to corporate America.
Primary Wave acquires Biggie's Notorious B.I.G., requires his catalog and other rights. Valletta Wallace, not Valletta Davis, Valletta Wallace, his mother, before she passed away, she made the deal, $200 million deal. You know, I hate to see a legacy like that end the way it ended, but I mean, death, there's no happy ending to death. You know, death should never be a means to a happy ending.
Now, you might be thinking, hey, that's just the game, right? Dead rappers' estates get flipped all the time. And yo, you'd be 100% correct on that. But here's where them underground tunnels, metaphorically speaking, start revealing themselves be. Because what popped off next wasn't no smooth transfer of wealth and legacy. Nah, this was a straight up explosion of accusations, lawsuits, and revelations that exposed just how deep the snakes were hiding in Biggie's inner circle. Barely 4 months after the Primary Wave deal got finalized, on July 2nd, 2025, a bombshell lawsuit got filed under seal in New York Supreme Court by Valletta's estate. The target? Faith Evans, Biggie's wifey and the mother of his seed, C.J. Wallace. The allegations were wild in how serious they were. Faith got accused of egregious misconduct in managing Notorious B.I.G. LLC, the main vehicle holding all the catalog rights. According to the suit, Faith allegedly took sole control of the LLC immediately after Valletta died, bypassed all the estate protocols, and wrongfully withheld her 50% share of the Primary Wave proceeds. We talking potentially tens of millions of dollars right here. But yo, it gets even more grimy. The 45-page complaint painted this picture of straight up betrayal. Faith allegedly rerouted funds through shell companies, locked Valletta's trustees out of the decision-making, and even tried to dissolve the LLC entirely to consolidate all the power under her name. Think about how bold that move is, fam. Here's a shorty who married Big in '94, who raised his son with him, who collaborated on joints like that 2005 Duets album, now being accused of essentially stealing from her own son's inheritance. The lawsuit exposed something even more foul. Evans had reportedly hired her own lawyers to negotiate side deals with Primary Wave, including NIL endorsements for a Faith-branded perfume line featuring Biggie's face, without telling nobody else who had a stake in this. Can you imagine that? While Valletta was on her deathbed, allegedly giving her blessing to this massive deal to secure her grandson's future, Faith was potentially cutting side deals to profit off Biggie's image for her own fragrance line, B. Now, let's rewind the tape for a minute and talk about how we even got to this point, because the roots of this mess go deep, all the way back to '97, when Biggie got killed, leaving behind an estate initially valued at around $10 million. That might sound like a lot of paper, but for an artist who just dropped Ready to Die and was about to release Life After Death, it was actually a relatively modest come-up, especially considering all the chaos surrounding his unsolved murder in the middle of the East Coast-West Coast War. Voletta Wallace, who was in her early 50s at the time and a retired preschool teacher with Jamaican roots, stepped into the executor role with what can only be described as that fierce mama bear energy. This wasn't just about stacking bread for her, it was about preserving her son's humanity, his legacy, his voice in the streets. She established the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation in 1997, a nonprofit dedicated to scholarships for underprivileged youth in music and the arts, mirroring Big's own philanthropic dreams that were found in his notebooks after he passed. But Voletta wasn't just playing the grieving mother role. Nah, Shorty was a shrewd businesswoman who understood that Biggie's estate needed to evolve with the times. She navigated complex licensing deals, from movie soundtracks to merchandise tie-ins with brands like Nike and Timberland. She fought tooth and nail against unauthorized uses of Biggie's image and music. And when streaming platforms like Spotify revolutionized how artists got paid in the 2010s, Voletta adapted quick, making sure Biggie's catalog generated steady royalties that climbed from low 7 figures to 8 figures annually. The transformation she orchestrated was nothing short of legendary, turning a modest inheritance into a financial juggernaut that would make any street hustler turned legit businessman proud.
Now, Voletta carried on Biggie's legacy after his tragic death, overseeing his estate and helping pass down his wealth to his family, including his daughter, Tiana Wallace. Now, she did a pretty good job, his mother, of running things too. Biggie's estate was estimated to be worth about $10 million when he died, and it's since been ballooned up to a staggering estimated $160 million.
By 2024, the estate's value had ballooned to over $160 million, a staggering 16-fold increase from 97. This wasn't no accident, fam. This was the result of Voletta's hands-on hustle, which included hiring trusted managers like Wayne Barrow, a longtime Bad Boy Records associate who knew the game, and collaborating with lawyers to structure the estate through entities like Notorious B.I.G. LLC, co-owned with Faith Evans. But here's where we need to talk about what was really going down beneath the surface in those metaphorical underground tunnels of power, paper, and control. Because while Voletta was building this empire brick by brick, other vultures were circling, waiting for that moment when her iron grip would finally loosen up. And that moment came in February 2025, when she took her last breath in that Pennsylvania hospice. The timing of everything, the primary wave deal, Voletta's death, the immediate power grab by Faith Evans, it all smells funny as hell, like something that had been planned out, calculated, waiting in the cut. Think about it real quick. Primary Wave had been in negotiations since late 2024, right around the time Voletta's health was presumably going downhill. The deal got finalized on March 20th, 2025, barely a month after she crossed over. And then, just 4 months later, the lawsuit drops, revealing that Faith had allegedly taken control of the LLC immediately after Voletta's death. What we looking at here ain't just some family dispute over money beef. This is a carefully orchestrated series of moves that suggest some people were positioning themselves for Voletta's inevitable passing, ready to swoop in the moment the OG was gone. And when you start pulling on that thread, when you start examining who knew what and when, the whole fabric of Biggie's legacy starts to unravel in ways that are frankly terrifying for anybody who really loved his music. Because here's the thing that keeps me up at night, fam. If Faith Evans, Biggie's own wife, the mother of his child, could allegedly be plotting to cut out his mother's estate from its rightful share, what else was happening in those shadows? What other deals were being made behind closed doors? What other betrayals were being orchestrated while everybody was mourning? And most disturbingly, who else knew about Voletta's declining health and was positioning themselves to profit off her death? But yo, the financial battlefield is only the beginning of this dark saga, because what happened to Biggie's actual voice, his art, his very essence in death might be even more disturbing than the fight over his paper. The ghost in the machine. Now, if you thought the financial warfare was grimy, let me put you on to something even more disturbing. The technological resurrection of Biggie Smalls. Because in 2025, we ain't just dealing with who controls Big's money or his masters. We dealing with who controls his actual voice, his image, his whole essence. And that, my peoples, is where things get truly dystopian and straight up disrespectful to the culture. In March 2025, mere weeks after Voletta crossed over, executor Wayne Barrow announced a comprehensive audit of Biggie's storage units in Teaneck, New Jersey, a low-key warehouse that had been housing relics since the late 90s. What they found wasn't just memorabilia or old platinum plaques. They found 47 unmarked reel-to-reel tapes, labeled haphazardly in Biggie's own handwriting. LA 96 Sessions, Brooklyn Freestyles Vol. 3, and cryptically, For Faith, Don't Release. Think about that last one for a second, B. For Faith, Don't Release. A tape specifically marked for his wifey, with explicit instructions not to drop it. What was on that tape? We don't know. The estate ain't disclosed it, but the fact that it exists, that Biggie felt the need to label it that way, suggests he knew, even back in 96, that there would come a time when people would be going through his archives looking for anything they could turn into profit. But yo, here's where it gets even more twisted. Among the discoveries was a pristine 2-inch master of the original Life After Death tracklist, a 28-song blueprint that was completely different from the 24-track double album that dropped posthumously in 97. This version featured 4 lost cuts, a grittier collab with Jay-Z titled Throne Wars, a soul-sampled joint called Mother's Shadow, produced by Lord Finesse, an alternate Victory remix with Nas and Busta Rhymes spitting fire, and a haunting closer called Eulogy for a King, where Biggie reflected on mortality over a looped Nina Simone piano riff. Now you might be thinking, yo, that's dope, right? More Biggie music for the heads. But here's where them underground tunnels get really dark, fam, because these weren't just dusty tapes that got cleaned up and released. By April 2025, the leaks had begun, first as snippets on SoundCloud, then full drops on bootleg forums, prompting the estate to greenlight selective releases under Primary Wave's banner. Hustle and Dreams, a 4-minute 22-second freestyle over a Pete Rock beat, surfaced as the flagship track, clocking 50 million streams in its debut week on Spotify. But here's the grimy part. Critics noted that the track featured subtle auto-tune to mask tape hiss and AI-generated ad-libs to fill gaps. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. AI-generated ad-libs. They literally using artificial intelligence to create new Biggie Smalls content, putting words in a dead man's mouth. B. C.J. Wallace, Biggie's seed, defended the approach in a Rolling Stone op-ed, saying, "Dad's bars are timeless, but tech lets us hear him in rooms he never entered." But yo, is that really what we want? Do we want to hear Big in rooms he never entered? Or are we just creating a digital puppet, a ghost in the machine, performing for our entertainment long after the man himself is gone? The answer to that question reveals something deeply uncomfortable about how we treat our dead legends in the digital age, and it's got the whole hood talking. The summer of 2025 saw remixes dominating the airwaves, transforming Biggie's catalog into what can only be described as a playground for contemporary producers trying to get their shine. Record Store Day's Black Friday drop teased a 12-inch of Big Papa, So So Def remix, Jermaine Dupri's 95 classic, reimagined with Atlanta trap snares, and a guest verse from Gunna. YouTube exploded with fan tributes and mashups. Even Fortnite reportedly tried to get in on the action with a scrapped Hypnotized jam track for Chapter 6, complete with an emote of Biggie's iconic crown pose, though this got scrubbed after a state pushback over likeness rights. But yo, here's where things get truly disturbing, because while all this technological resurrection was happening, while Primary Wave was using AI to generate what-if duets of Biggie trading bars with Eminem, something far more sinister was unfolding in the shadows. In June and July 2025, YouTube channels like Celeb Unraveled began posting videos claiming that estate raids had uncovered erased codicils and wiped drives hiding evidence of Biggie's distrust of Diddy, allegedly military-grade deletions designed to bury royalty schemes and shady business dealings. Now, most of these claims were eventually debunked by fact-checkers from Snopes and Reuters as amalgamations of old street rumors. But here's the thing. B, one piece of evidence held up under scrutiny. A cassette from Biggie's 97 Lexus was authenticated and auctioned for $250,000 at Sotheby's in August, containing a freestyle over Entomb's Juicy Fruit, with ad-libs that appeared to throw shade at unnamed suits. Who were these suits? Why was this tape authenticated when others weren't? And most importantly, who benefited from its $250,000 sale? The timing here is crucial, fam. This auction happened in August 2025, right in the middle of the Faith Evans lawsuit drama, right as the estate was knee-deep in claims of financial misconduct. Someone found a way to monetize a cassette tape from Biggie's whip, authenticated it through mysterious channels, and sold it for $250,000. And we supposed to believe that's just coincidence? Nah, B. But perhaps the most disturbing revelation speculation came from publicist Jonathan Hay, who filed a June complaint alleging that estate managers had blocked his access to sensitive demos during the audit, including a purported Biggie Puff fallout track called Bad Boy Blues. Hay claimed he received threats from Wayne Barrow's team, echoing broader industry whispers of gatekeeping amid Diddy's ongoing legal troubles that were about to blow up the whole game. Speaking of Diddy, we need to address the elephant in the room, or rather, the elephant that's been sitting in a federal detention center since September 2024. Because while all this chaos was unfolding with Biggie's estate, Sean Diddy Combs was facing his own reckoning, one that would cast a dark shadow over everything Biggie had built in the streets. In March 2024, Homeland Security raided Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami cribs, uncovering allegations of a sprawling operation of sex trafficking, racketeering, and forced labor dating back to 2008. By September 2024, Diddy was arrested and hit with 5 federal counts, and by July 2nd, 2025, the exact same day that Faith Evans got sued by Valletta's estate, Diddy was convicted on 4 prostitution-related counts and sentenced to 52 months in federal prison. Let that timing marinate for a minute. Be July 2nd, 2025, the same damn day. Faith Evans gets sued for allegedly stealing from Biggie's estate, and Diddy gets convicted on sex trafficking charges. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you start connecting the dots, when you look at the web of relationships and financial entanglements between Bad Boy Records, Primary Wave, Faith Evans, and Valletta's estate, coincidence starts to look a whole lot like coordination and some serious behind-the-scenes maneuvering. Because here's what we know for facts. Diddy retained a 50% stake in Bad Boy's masters until the 2025 Primary Wave sale, royalties that poured $20 to $30 million annually into heirs, but now face clawbacks amid Diddy's frozen assets. CJ Wallace publicly cut ties in a June 2025 Instagram post, stating, "My father's light isn't dimmed by shadows," and donated Bad Boy profits to anti-trafficking causes. The younger Wallace's decision to distance himself wasn't just symbolic. It was a public declaration that he understood the depth of corruption surrounding his pop's legacy, and he wanted no part of that energy. Yet cutting ties with Diddy meant confronting an even darker question that the street's been asking for decades. What role did Puff really play in the events of March 9th, 1997, when his main man got hit up? The conspiracy unravels. Now we arrive at the darkest chamber of these underground tunnels, the place where conspiracy theory and documented facts become almost impossible to separate. Because what we about to discuss ain't just speculation. It's a pattern of behavior, financial transactions, and testimonies that paint a picture so disturbing it challenges everything we thought we knew about Biggie's death and the empire that got built on his grave. Let's start with the most grotesque allegations that surfaced in the July 2025 lawsuits. On July 8th, an anonymous John Doe filed in Los Angeles Superior Court accusing Diddy of a 2016 assault at his Holmby Hills mansion. But it wasn't just the assault allegation that caught everybody's attention. It was the specific detail that during this rampage, Diddy allegedly grabbed a vintage Biggie Smalls t-shirt from a memorabilia closet, emblazoned with ready-to-die artwork, and masturbated into it while forcing Doe to watch. The suit described the shirt as a sacred relic that Diddy desecrated in a fit of rage, disrespecting Big's memory in the most foul way possible. Now, I want you to really think about what that means, fam. If this allegation is true, and I emphasize if, because this is still in litigation, we looking at someone who didn't just exploit Biggie's legacy for profit. We looking at someone who literally desecrated physical artifacts connected to Biggie in the most degrading way imaginable. This ain't about business no more, B. This is about power, control, and a level of psychological dominance that borders on straight up sociopathic behavior that got the whole hood shook. But yo, it gets worse. Days later, on July 11th, another filing implicated Biggie's son, CJ Wallace, then 27, as an unwitting facilitator in a 2020 incident at Revolt TV offices. The allegation claimed that CJ, lured by promises of production work, drove the accuser to the site in a Combs-owned SUV, where Diddy and associates allegedly forced oral sex amid threats of blackballing the victim's career. CJ immediately denied involvement through lawyers, calling it defamatory fiction, exploiting his father's name, and trying to drag him into some grimy situation. But here's what's truly disturbing about this allegation. Whether CJ was knowing or unknowing, willing or manipulated, the fact remains that Biggie's own seed was allegedly being used as bait to lure victims to Diddy. Think about the level of psychological manipulation required to pull that off, B. Think about what it means that the son of the man Diddy allegedly helped kill, or at minimum failed to protect, was being used as an instrument in Diddy's alleged crimes. That's some truly sinister, calculated, cold-blooded move right there. Now let's connect this back to Gene Deal's testimony about the night Biggie got murked, because the parallels are chilling, fam. Gene, who served as Diddy's bodyguard that fateful night, described a series of events that suggest something far more sinister than just some random act of violence in the streets. In the days leading up to the murder, Gene received multiple warnings about threats against the bad boy entourage, yet his concerns were repeatedly dismissed like they weren't even valid.
I said, yo, Puff, I got some intel, bro. He said, what's up, Gene? I said, I got some intel that people gonna come and try to kill us.
Think about that for a moment. B, a professional bodyguard, someone whose literal job is to protect Diddy and his artists, comes to his boss with credible intelligence about a death threat. And what's Diddy's response? Dismissal, irritation, and ultimately, an ultimatum that would seal Biggie's fate in the most tragic way possible.
He said, Gene, I don't wanna hear that shit. I don't wanna hear that shit, Gene. I said, you don't wanna hear that shit? F what you mean you don't wanna hear that shit? He said, yo, Gene, you ain't gotta go if you don't wanna go.
What kind of response is that, though? What kind of person dismisses a credible threat like that unless they already know what's about to go down? Gene's testimony reveals even more troubling details that got the streets talking. He described how that night at the Peterson Museum, only 11 of the 23 people who came in with them actually left with the convoy. 12 people had already bounced to Steve Stout's crib, effectively splitting up the security detail at the most vulnerable moment you could imagine.
So the 23 people that came in with us, it was only 12 of us leaving. Oh no, 11 of us leaving.
23, 11 leave.
Yeah.
12 stay.
11 stayed, 12 had already went to Steve Stout's house.
Got it.
But perhaps the most chilling detail from Gene's account involves a mysterious figure who appeared just before the shooting went down. Gene described a dude from the Nation of Islam in a blue suit and bow tie who approached the cars, made direct eye contact with Gene, and then silently turned around and walked away. Minutes later, Biggie was dead. Was this man a spotter? Was he confirming the target? And most importantly, who sent him to do that reconnaissance?
This guy from the Nation of Islam that had a blue suit, white shirt, blue bow tie, come walking down the block. When he gets to I had peeked right there. When he gets to the third or second car, I just come out. And I'm come out, at this time when we outside, I have my gun up under my shirt and I just lowered it. He looks me in the eye, I look him in the eye. He don't say nothing. He don't say a thing. He just turns around and walks back down the street.
If Gene's testimony is accurate, someone knew exactly where Biggie would be, exactly when he would be leaving, and exactly which whip he would be in. This wasn't no random drive-by B. This was surgical. Precision. The kind of hit that requires inside information and careful planning. And the most disturbing element, Gene also revealed that just before the shooting went down, Paul, another security team member, ordered him to get in a different car, effectively removing him from his position, protecting Biggie's vehicle. When Gene protested, Paul threatened him with termination from Bad Boy Records, prioritizing employment over the artist's safety in a moment of known danger. That's some grimy business right there, fam. The pattern here is undeniable, B. Whether it's the night Biggie got smoked, the decades of alleged abuse and exploitation that followed, or the current battle over his estate, we see the same tactics repeated over and over: isolation of the target, manipulation of loyalties, threats of career destruction, and ultimately, violence or financial devastation for those who don't comply with the program. And now, in 2025, as Diddy sits in FCI Otisville, awaiting appeal on his conviction, as Faith Evans battles Valletta's estate in court over tens of millions of dollars, as AI-generated versions of Biggie's voice flood streaming platforms and get played in clubs worldwide, we have to ask ourselves, what are we really celebrating when we celebrate Biggie's legacy? Are we honoring the man or just profiting off his death? C.J. Wallace, in a September Vanity Fair profile, revealed that the estate had funded exhumations of ballistics for isotopic analysis, tracing the Gecko ammunition used to kill his pops to an LAPD evidence locker breach in 1996. Let that sink in for a minute, B. The bullets that killed Biggie allegedly came from LAPD's own evidence locker, the same LAPD that was embroiled in the Rampart scandal, whose officers like David Mack allegedly moonlighted for Death Row Records and had unexplained $75,000 deposits post-shooting. That's some corrupt, dirty cop, street justice type situation that sounds straight out of a movie. We looking at a murder that may have involved corrupt police officers, record label executives, gang affiliates, and a complex web of financial motivations that we only beginning to untangle nearly 3 decades later. And the people who might have the answers, Diddy, Faith Evans, the surviving members of Bad Boy's inner circle, are all either in legal jeopardy or fighting over money like vultures over a carcass. The LAPD's Cold Case Homicide Review announced in August 2025 allocated $2 million for DNA retesting on evidence stored since '97. Chief Jim McDonnell's October 15th update was tepid, promising leads but no imminent arrests. Translation: they know more than they sang, but they can't or won't move forward with charges because too many powerful people are implicated. Why though? Maybe it's because the truth would implicate too many powerful people in positions of authority. Maybe it's because the statute of limitations has run out on everything except murder. Or maybe it's because, as Russell Poole once said, we had the pieces, politics buried the puzzle. The system ain't built to bring justice for brothers like Biggie, it's built to protect those in power. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.